Hey, good evening. Looks like I remember to take all the screens off this evening. Thanks for joining us on the Political Deep Dive. I am Dave Valente. We're having a good show this week, lots of stuff to talk to, and I'm excited to get into it with our guest this week, Heidi Alejandro-Smith. How are you doing?
Hi.
How's everybody? Yeah, so just a word of warning, Heidi is on the road. She's a driver with, you're with your husband, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so she'll be with us for the first half hour or so of the show. We'll be talking about her ascendancy to chair of the state of Louisiana Libertarian Party. Congratulations on that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so I'm always happy when good things happen to good people, and you're definitely good people. So tell me, how did you get involved in the Libertarian Party?
It was well, I got to go way back because my stepson started getting involved in college when he enrolled in 14, And that's when I first started hearing Libertarian a lot, because that's where he started leaning to. And then finally in 17, it just seems kind of stagnant between the two larger parties. And I wanted to do something about it. So on August 31st of that year, I signed up with the LP, and the rest is history.
Awesome. And bringing on our other one of the crew members, he's a lumberjack and he's okay. It's Dan Fish. How you doing, Dan?
I am a lumberjack. I'm not okay, but I'm willing to take all of that. What's shaking, man?
How much? So, Heidi, what you just became chair of the Libertarian Party of Louisiana. What are your goals for being chair?
My main goal right now is with legislative matters, because we have a regular session going on, and we're probably going to have a special session going on this year. And right now they filed about 1,300 bills, and about 1,200 are absolute crap. I mean, just pure crap. So, the actual day I got elected, I tasked my vice chair, Kevin Pilley, brand new as well. Shout out to Kevin. How you doing tonight? To create the Legislative Action Committee. Let us know what bills are advancing, what bills that they're just sitting on, so we can basically make a big stink about it. That's how we're going to start changing things, is at the local and state government level. And that's my focus right now.
Excellent. So what prompted you to run for chair?
It was when the previous chair, Rufus Craig, decided not to run for another term, despite lots and lots of nudging, including by myself. There were just not a lot of people were stepping forward and saying, hey, I think I want to do it. And finally I said in January, you know what, I'll go ahead and throw my hat into the ring and see what I can do. And luckily for me, the delegates at the convention thought that the plan I had some substance and voted me in.
Excellent. Well, that's great. So, beyond legislative matters, are there any other goals you want to see?
Yeah, right now we're trying to grow our local affiliates. Right now, our immediate goal is to have a local affiliate in every major city in Louisiana, and we're down to 2. And that would be Monroe and Houma, a large oil hub. And we should have those up and running here in the next 3 months. Another lofty goal we have is to make 5 additional affiliates for the next 6 months. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to grow it on the local level. And another thing we're doing is trying to get our website, get the kinks out. We've had some glitches over the past few months, just being user friendly. So I created a tech support committee to try to work out those kinks and see if we could get our website to where everybody isn't complaining about it.
Yeah, I mean, that IT is always a concern, especially as integrated into tech as we have become.
Yeah.
Getting a good functioning website is always important.
Yeah, we want to make it as user friendly as possible.
Awesome. So let's.
Hey, Heidi, are you guys using the CRM?
We are using the CRM, and some of the issues are like taking payments and adding our events to the calendar. It's been a lag there when we add the event to the calendar and actually appears. And we would like to have our events known as soon as possible. So that's one of the things we're working on, is to make sure that we have our events there in enough due time so people can plan and actually show up to them. And another issue is the payment taking. We've had some payment issues with the convention with our packages, and we want to make sure that's streamlined so when we have the next convention, we don't have the similar lag or the similar technical issues with that.
Yeah.
Cool.
So let's get into some of the news of the week. Really sad story coming out of Florida this weekend. Quarterback Dwayne Haskins was killed in an accident, a very strange accident. In fact, he was walking on the highway in South Florida and was hit by a dump truck.
Yep.
Just kind of a really out of the blue story.
Yep. Yeah. I've heard of Dwayne Haskins from Ohio State because he beat out Joe Burrow for the job.
Yeah.
And
Joe
Joe
Burrow had
Burrow
to leave
coming down to LSU and giving us a championship. So that's when I first heard of him. And then I heard of him again because my sister-in-law is a huge Steelers fan. And, you know, there was all kinds of speculation about who's going to be the next quarterback. You know, or is it going to be right up to the wire? Or do they have somebody set in mind? And now that's kind of in flux again, unfortunately. And, you know, I feel bad for everybody, his family. I feel bad for the dump truck driver because, you know, depending on what time of the day it is, you cannot see somebody on the road, on the interstate. It's very, very difficult. So I know there's a lot of people hurt right now.
Yeah, it was just before dawn. It was like 6:30
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
morning.
Chances are, particularly at 595 over there in Florida, is probably a pretty dark stretch of interstate. So there's a lot of people asking a lot of questions hurting right now. And my condolences go out to everyone.
Yeah, I mean, it really was a tragedy. And the interesting thing about it is that, you know, some people I think were a little insensitive, right? They made posts about it, and unfortunately, you know, they didn't think about the human. They just thought about, you know, his football problems. And he did have.
It was glossed over.
Go ahead.
It was glossed over, in my opinion.
Yep. And you know, the fundamental thing about it is that everybody who played with this guy, everybody who spent time with him, had nice things to say about him. You know, my wife's a huge Chicago Bears fan, and Justin Fields, you know, considered Haskins a mentor to him at Ohio State, and you know, said some really nice things about him. People who played with him along the way, you know, there's a ton of people who, you know, you shouldn't judge them by their NFL careers. You should judge them by, you know, their humanity. And the fact of the matter is that, you know, to make it in the NFL is like, you know, making it as a professional rock star. It's like making it as, you know, it's the most competitive and the highest talent level ever. All you can ask for is that somebody do that, you know, with as much grace and humility as they can. And Haskins was a guy who, you know, he was giving it everything. He didn't give up. He could have walked away with that rookie contract, but no, he went to Pittsburgh to try to make something out of it.
Yeah.
Really unfortunate.
And it was a big story here in because like I'm in the DC metro area, so he was a phenom from the local Maryland high school football scene, and he was you know, of course he was drafted by the Commanders. He's still going to use that name. And you know, had a bad falling out. It was strange because he was the local hometown hero coming back to save the franchise, and it just didn't work out with him. But you know, and of course, being here in Martinsburg, West Virginia, we're between Commanders and Pittsburgh Steelers territory. So you know, a lot of people were just devastated by this.
I thought we were refusing to say Commanders.
Commandos. You can go to Commandos, you know, not wearing underwear.
I think that's a much better name. I mean, first of all, so I will tell you that there is there may or may not be, but there is a YouTube channel dedicated to the see-throughness of NFL players' pants. And there's some special shots here and there. And so Commandos would be an outstanding name for a football team.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm too much of a football fan to appreciate that. I'm sorry, y'all. No, I don't need that in my life.
Yeah, I don't either.
Fair enough.
Speaking of football, next weekend we restart the USFL again. For those who may remember 1982, they started the USFL as a rival to the NFL as spring football. It had a turbulent time in American football lore. Some great players played for it. Herschel Walker,
Steve Young,
Jim Kelly, Steve Young,
Bobby
Hebert,
Reggie White. I mean, they're just phenomenal players that played for the USFL. It was short-lived because they spent a lot of money trying to rival the NFL, and the arrogance of one Donald John Trump trying to take trying to sue the NFL and trying to take the league to the fall.
Yep, and then remember that he built a wall in the end zone to prevent the other team from scoring.
Yeah.
He made the other team pay for it, although he paid for it.
Right.
With his $3 check from the NFL. Yeah, so the dispensary of that story was that when the NFL, the USFL won the suit, but only was awarded by $1 by the federal judge who ruled on it, and there's some kind of triplicate nature of the ruling, which means the NFL had to cut him a $3 check as awarded. He never cashed. But that starts this weekend. A lot of the original franchises are back, although I don't think any of the original owners are back.
No, this is only owners from what I can tell.
The New Jersey Generals, who Trump owned in the 80s, is owned by a different person. I think it's league owned. But it starts this week. Next year we start the XFL again.
Yep.
This is their third iteration, really. I mean, they had the 1 year in the early 2000s that didn't work out. They folded. Then they came back the year before COVID hit, 2020, and folded. As soon as everything shut down. And now it's third iteration is going to be popping out next season. So my question is, do you think that spring football can survive in the United States?
Yes, because the problem with when the USFL came around before was there were only 3 networks. Okay, now there's 8,000, and the ability to show games like we were talking about this that you don't even need a network coverage anymore. You can get Amazon to live stream the games, and you find that I don't know what their plan is for coverage, if they're going with network coverage or not. But there's so much more media consumed and so many niche markets that I think you could absolutely see something like this going. In fact, I'm surprised that there's not more minor league baseball coverage too, because I mean ESPN 8, the Ocho, is of course searching for coverage.
Now, I think it real. Another reason why it has a chance to succeed is because back then there was only 2 places where you could bet on sports, and that was in Las Vegas and Atlantic City. And now it's basically nationwide. In Louisiana, for whatever reason, they split it up in the county. That's parishes for us, but everywhere else it's statewide. You could go pretty much anywhere and bet. You can bet on your phone or on your tablet, and professional bettors, if there's something that they can bet on, they'll bet on it. Even the mom and pop bettors,
Oh, yeah.
Everybody, especially in the more red places, they miss their football, but out of principle, they don't want to watch the NFL. So this is a chance for them to watch some kind of football. So I think there's a few reasons why spring football will probably be here to stay. Now the question is, once the XFL comes out next year, which one will people be watching more? Will they be watching the USFL or will they be watching the XFL? And I think that'll be who can market it better. And it'll be interesting to see because the XFL will basically be run by Dwayne Johnson, who's known how to market himself and basically anything under the sun and make money out of it. So I'm really interested in what happens next year.
Yeah, the one other thing I'll put behind that too is that the XFL, Dwayne Johnson, the wrestler background of how to sell things is going to be a really critical part of that. And then the other thing is that I think that there's an option for these leagues to avoid a lot of the stuff that's broken in the NFL. If I were marketing, I would say football without CTE. Or maybe that's a little over the top, but there's things like that you could talk about and get rid of. Those are my thoughts.
Or football without the sexual harassment. How about that?
Well, so it's funny you say that. We had a chance to go to a Bears game And like I mentioned earlier, my wife is a huge Bears fan. And one of the things that she loves about the fact is that Virginia McCaskey, when she took over the Bears, she said, we're not going to have cheerleaders in Chicago weather parading up and down the sideline in freezing winter temperature.
Yeah.
Got rid of the cheerleaders.
It's miserable in Chicago in the wintertime. Miserable.
So I agree. I would love to see football without the sexual
Let's say
harassment.
watch
That would be a
Bears.
good thing.
Let's
What'd you say, Dave?
have to watch Bears. I mean,
Wow.
I would make him watch Bears in freezing cold weather in December. I mean,
No, it's like -10. Good day.
unusual. I think the USFL will have the advantage because they are coming out this year and have the year's advantage of getting it into the mind of the sport fan. It will have a little bit of advantage with the fact of nostalgia of the 80s and the old teams coming out.
And they have like new exciting rules too, right? So there's
yeah, I mean that's the thing. I mean that's where these like the USFL is gonna have like the 3-point try. You're gonna have maybe they're going to incorporate like Canadian football. But I mean, I think that would be interesting if an American league gets some Canadian football league rules like the Rouge and maybe not our field, but just some innovation. I think is going to be needed. I think that's where I think MLB is starting to get it right with the minor leagues, and that they're using that as the place where they do the innovation. Prove a concept before they bring it up to the major leagues.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's talk about the sad story of the Capitol Hill Fox.
Oh, the Fox. I've heard bits and pieces about this. So
Yeah,
a Fox actually is a congressperson, right?
Yeah, so Tuesday, it's done to find out that there's a fox on Capitol Hill. It's a very urban area, and fox was seen on Capitol Hill, and it started attacking people. And it got the other people. It was Ami Bera, representative from California, and they finally caught the fox and sadly had to put it down.
Well, I mean, first of all, you had to. So one of the things that like people don't realize, but it's worth mentioning, is that rabies is fatal, right? If you don't get treated, you actually. So this is not to start off a traumatic thing, but so rabies is actually a vaccine. The thing is that when you get bit, it takes a while for you to get sick for it. So if you get the vaccine before you get the infection, you'll live. But if you don't get the vaccine, rabies kills you 100% of the time. And it's astonishing that it's that fatal. And I just want to say briefly, talk about it. Let me share my screen for a second. I will show you where the fox came from. I live in the DC area, and so here's Capitol Hill right here where my mouse is. This is a giant park and a golf course, and there's tons of wildlife there. But most people think that he was cranking out there. Those of you can't see, this is the White House. Here's the Lincoln Memorial. This is the whole mall. This is the Capitol, and then this. And it's a very fun public golf course. So if you ever want to play golf in DC, it's a place I would recommend you go. But so they're pretty sure that he was living here, feeding on whatever, and it's a giant area.
Yeah,
and made it up to the Capitol because why not? I mean, if you're going to have rabies and go crazy, you should at least buy some congressmen.
Yeah, I mean, there should be a statue of Capitol Hill.
Right, exactly.
Hero of the people. But outside of the aggression, it didn't really exhibit anything that was rabies-like. It wasn't foaming. Didn't have proper extremities.
The fox was scared than anything.
The libertarian conspiracy theorist to me is: did they kill it to make an example of it?
Well, they killed it to show that they were anti-communist because it was a red fox.
Harambe!
That's terrible.
Harambe!
Wait till they get to the pigeon. Pigeons say "coo, coo."
Nice. Right. That's pretty terrible.
I'd say, yeah.
I was the one other interesting thing about it though is that it could go on that long. I was actually kind of surprised. Like it bit 9 people, right? Only the federal government is that bad. You go to any other small town anywhere in the United States, I have fond memories of Louisiana. I spent a lot of time in Slidell, which is right.
Oh, hey, that's my neck of the woods.
Oh, is it? My uncle still lives there. I'm sorry, what?
Who lives in Slidell?
My uncle lives in Slidell. He was in the Coast Guard. He was based out in New Orleans, and that's where he settled. And,
that's cool. That's cool.
A lot of fun time there. But I guarantee you that if a rabid dog is anywhere in Louisiana bites one person, they're going to find it the next day. They're not going to wait for it to fight 8 more people.
This is correct.
The government could be that incompetent.
Yeah,
this is correct. Animal control is on it within like minutes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I get tested this personally.
Yep.
The ineptitude of the federal government.
Well, I mean, was it ineptitude, or was somebody just like, it's Congress people, let's let it go, man. Let's see how many you can get.
Why not both?
What happened was they tried to figure out what to do about the fox. They sent it to a committee.
The committee decided to form a subcommittee.
Exactly. They were deadlocked.
Animal control subcommittee.
Yeah. Then the House passed something. The Senate filibustered it. And, so in the end, it had to be the locals who did something about it. But yeah, I mean, it's a sad story, but the real story that I would like everybody, all of our, I mean, we're going out to 10,000 people here. People, rabies is no joke. Okay, you get bit, you suspect you get bit, something like that. I mean, that's what happened to Joe on the campaign trail, right?
Oh, yeah.
No, remember that.
Right, that you can't take a chance because it's fatal. If you wait and you find out that the animal that bit you did have rabies, or you don't know, it's fatal, and there's no coming back from it. There's nothing they can do to fix it. So
And it's not
to get the vaccine right away.
Yeah, it's not a pleasant way to go either. I mean, it's like,
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah, you're all kinds of spinal issues, and
yeah, I think most people, if they find out that they do have rabies and that's the way they're going, will choose suicide instead of waiting for that to pull.
Yeah, it's not pretty. It takes about a month to kill you, and it'll kill you.
Yep.
Yeah, it just shuts everything down. So, let's see. Another story that came out this week is the odd case of 4 men accused of attempting to kidnap the governor of Michigan. And the eventual plan was, I think, to kill her, or what happened with the COVID lockdowns and all that. That story that case fell apart, and it resulted in 2 acquittals of 2 of the gentlemen involved and 2 mistrials of the 2 ringleaders.
Right.
And I think the thing was that the jury thought that the star witness for the government, the informant, was actually trapping the gentleman into this plot.
Yeah, I mean, essentially they said that most of these guys were just all talk. That they'd never done anything, they'd never taken any action. They're just like, yeah, man, it would be nice to kidnap the governor and take her away and play Parcheesi for a while. But
just a bunch of guys drinking beer and talking crap.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, you could just say a bunch of guys, right? The rest of it is assumed.
Yeah.
In Michigan. Sorry, Michigan people. But yeah, I mean that's what it was. It's weird. It's weird that the government went all the way with this case with just that stuff about it. But I think there probably was a lot of pressure on them. Like, it's an insurrection and all that other stuff. But I mean, I am always happy when justice seems to prevail. And in this case, right, I mean, if somebody gets off in this case when the full power of the government is set against them, I tend to believe they're innocent. So I'm glad these guys are, free to walk the street. I'm sad that they lost that year of their lives. but I'm happy that the money that the government is going to spend in restitution will not be spent on weapons that would kill other people.
Yeah, I mean that's the sad thing is that Spike Cole's right when this story first broke was if you're in a group and somebody starts egging you on to do violence against a government official, always assume that they're an arc. Always assume that they're a Fed because that's become a big thing is trying to get people to do dumb things to build cases against them. And
Right.
And I also think that history was against the government on this one because once they presented this defense, there could have been some people on that jury that actually read their history and remembered Iran-Contra and some other things and like, well, it's not out of the realm of possibility that, the guy kind of infiltrated in. It's like, yeah, let's do this because they're his historical precedent for it.
yeah.
So
Apparently, this guy was not the most ethical person in the world either. It wasn't like they brought in some crackpot, or some crack agent to infiltrate this group. It was another person on the street that had reached out to the FBI about these guys, and then they said, "Okay, you need to set it up." He wasn't very believable, and yeah, you're right. I'm glad that justice has failed in this case. And everything else. I don't know that the two main guys that got the mistrial, the two supposed ringleaders, will get a retrial on this one because it was a mistrial. They can retry it if they want to, but I don't think they'll be successful. You're muted, Dan.
Oh, sorry. The interesting thing about it is that with the other two guys off, I would be shocked if the government is going to still pursue the case against those other two. I mean, maybe there's compelling evidence against them, but I mean, they had a mistrial. And so it's hardly a convincing case. The government's best option here is probably just to say, oh, you know what? Those guys made a mistake. That probably we're sorry.
Yeah.
The other thing about it, though, is that, it is it's a sad thing when the government does that sort of playing the victim card, saying that, oh, this is going to happen and aren't these people terrible? When in reality, sitting around and being unhappy with the government, if that were a crime, Lente, they're coming for you.
Oh, yeah. They know where to find me, too.
Yeah, exactly. You work for the federal government. Good point.
They'll find me. They know where I'm at.
How can we find him? Look at the address on his paychecks.
Like, he'll be in the office on Friday. So.
Yeah, I know. That's a thing. It's interesting, though, because I do also think that there is some conflating of this with, some of the other cases that are going on. This isn't January 6th. This is something else.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. All right. Let's see. Further media conglomeration. We've got the merger between Warner Media and Discovery. We've merged the Discovery family channels like Animal Planet, TLC, TV, merging with the likes of HBO, CNN, TNT, Turner Sports, and Warner Brothers Studio. So the whole ring of media seems to be shrinking a little bit more again.
I mean, shrinking compared to what, though? Go ahead, Heidi.
I just want to touch on this briefly because I'm getting ready to start my shift, so But I think the media coalescing, it kind of reminds me of, you touched upon it earlier, Dan, when the USL first started, we had three main channels, ABC, CBS, and NBC. And it's looking like, even though, there's more variety of what we can entertain ourselves with, it's looking like all we're going to end up with is just three main blocks or three owners of all of this stuff. So everything is going to be filtered. Everything is going to be, regurgitated depending on, what they want us to see. So even though, on the short term, hey, my streaming services are going to be cheaper, long term, I don't know if it's going to be good for us on an informational level. And I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Sure.
I'll catch you guys later, okay?
Yeah,
See you
thank
later,
you so
Heidi.
much for
Thanks.
Heidi, and congratulations on being chair, and good luck on your term, and good luck in Reno.
We'll see you in Reno.
Yes, we will be in Reno. Catch y'all later.
Yep.
Take
All right.
care.
I do have some exciting news on that, and that I was elected a delegate
You
by
were?
the state of Maryland. So very flattered and honored to do that.
Excellent.
The thing, going back to that media thing, though, I think that controlled media is almost done at this point in time, because like my best media purchase, so what do I have? I have Disney, I have HBO, Amazon Prime, Netflix. But the best thing that I have is the YouTube purchase, the family plan for YouTube,
Yeah.
which is, not that the show is sponsored by YouTube, but if I could find a way to put my
We're on
link,
YouTube.
send it for you guys. But we could hope. We are broadcasting over YouTube.
Yes, at Papa Duke.
Yep. So, but that $15 a month plan is phenomenal because you can share it with up to 5 people using their Google account. You get YouTube Music for free, YouTube with no commercials, which is awesome.
Yeah, of course.
And then a ton of free movies on YouTube. Like I don't even know what's there right now, but pretty good stuff. But what's really awesome about it is all the small time producers who are out there making money on YouTube. So the basic YouTube rate, as I understand it, is you can get essentially $5 for every 1,000 views that your video has. So if you put together something that's even remarkably decent, you can easily get 100,000 views. And so, $5 for every 1,000 views, that's $500.
Yeah.
You do that once a week. Let's say you spend 4 hours on it. That's a great supplement to your income. Most of the in-depth stuff that I see right now is people doing analysis of public access videos of either the news or other things that's out there, but they do like sort of big things about it, about, either this is what's happening in the Ukraine, and we saw this story, we saw that story, that sort of thing. Taking the time to put together, but there's a lot of geology and nature shows, stuff like that. People putting together footage that's in the public domain. It's awesome.
I watch hours and hours, usually every night, of YouTube history stuff. So ancient history is kind of my jam. So I'm sitting there watching like ancient Mesopotamia or ancient Persia, that type of stuff. So
yeah, and that's why I think that many channels are going to go to streaming. Just, hey, Julius, what's up? Many channels are going to go to releasing their content just on YouTube rather than on, a streaming network or anything like that. Because if you go with a network, you end up, a lot of strings attached. But if you do it over YouTube, the revenue's all yours.
that's an interesting thing, because I was reading a story about how Netflix had invested in 2 producers in I want to say 2017 or 2018. One was the guy that did American Horror Story, and the other one, Care Bear is here. Care Bear.
What's up?
And hey guys,
Hey, Kara. It was the USFL talk that made you want to come in, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I couldn't resist. Like a moth to a flame.
So, but the media so Netflix in 2018 spent a bunch of money on the guy that did the American Horror Story, and then they brought in another female producer, paid her a third of what they paid this guy. This guy is losing them a crap ton of money.
Sure.
His stuff that he's been producing has been getting 0 views. She produced some of their biggest shows over the lifespan of her contract. She actually just got renewed, and it's amazing to see, kind of the cream rising to the top on those deals, because American Horror Story was huge for AMC, and just his stuff
FX.
or FX. That's right, but it hasn't worked for Netflix.
Well, and what's interesting about it is you see that model of, a show proving its success on a smaller network and then moving somewhere else. Like Battlestar Galactica famously started on Sci-Fi and then moved to NBC after proving that it was successful.
Yeah.
And I think that YouTube is going to be that sort of thing too. I mean, YouTube, Amazon, because it's Roku, all these places where you can get a channel for, essentially nothing.
Yep.
Release your content, build your own following. Now, the one thing that the networks do have is, the ability to have a lineup and lead in and stuff like that. But even that doesn't make any sense, because I don't think many people watch one network for 2 hours, right? I definitely don't do that. Occasionally, like, ESPN will lead me into something because I'm watching something and then something else comes on right afterwards. But in general, I mean, I watch very little television anyway, but I never say, oh yeah, because I watch this thing, I'm going to watch that thing.
Yes, well, I mean, sports for me is, that's the only thing that really holds me on a channel for any length of time to begin with. I don't watch many TV shows really at all besides sports. Now, does YouTube have much in the way of sports packages, or does it?
If you like badminton, there's nowhere else to go. But
And who doesn't?
Yeah.
I mean, what they have is, it's, a lot of small colleges will live stream their games over YouTube.
Oh yeah,
which is
I
great.
know.
But in terms of professional sports, I haven't seen anything.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's only just a matter of time too, right? Because most sports, I think, as most smaller sports go to wanting better production, as the ability to have good production becomes cheaper and cheaper and requires less and less knowledge, I think you'll see more stuff coming out there, because I would like to see it. So, I mean, full disclosure, I played lacrosse in college. I'm very interested in watching lacrosse on television. There's not a lot of it, even though I live in Maryland, right? The lacrosse state. I played rugby, squash, other sports like that. Those esoteric sports, I'm more interested in watching them than I am watching the NBA, which is all fixed anyway.
Yeah, I hate the NBA.
NBA is terrible.
At least entertaining of all the major professional sports.
Yeah.
But I like college basketball. I will say I'm not as big a fan of college basketball as I have been in the past. Like the retirement of Mike Krzyzewski, probably 10 years ago, would have been a much bigger thing in my life. But over the last 10 years, I really just have fallen. I mean, like, I watch my alma mater play on YouTube, and it is not. I mean, they're awful, but that's not the only college basketball I watch anymore.
I also like college basketball. I have to mention, I have been doing March Madness either on paper or online since
Did you win
1990. I did win.
I got
won
$75.
the first time in history for me. I won the Liberty League, so I am the best libertarian at brackets this year, which is awesome. Yeah, and you do owe me.
Wow.
I do owe you $5.
Yep.
I'll pay you in beer.
All right, that's good.
Or,
are you going to Reno, man?
No.
All right.
No,
I guess I'll have to come out to
West
Virginia to collect then.
Yeah,
One day I'll be right pounding on your door.
You could do New Mexico in July with Dew.
Right. Yeah.
Well, we could go to the duck thing in Deming again. That would be cool.
No.
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 Okay.
Visiting me is more fun. More fun.
I think it would be on the way, wouldn't it?
We'll make Kara run around the house.
All right.
I'll quack.
Whereabouts are you in New Mexico?
Albuquerque.
All right. I mean, New Mexico is the land of enchantment. So, I would say that it would be worth it. I think you have to fly into Albuquerque anyway. So,
pretty much,
of course. Yeah. Right.
I mean, you can fly to El Paso maybe, but
yeah, we'll come. Dave and I will do a road trip of the Southwest.
There you go.
Stopping at scenic points along the way.
The reason why I'm going to New Mexico, well, one, to see Kara, but this is I can't even believe I'm saying this number. My 30th high school reunion. 30.
David,
how the fuck did that happen?
I don't feel sorry for you.
I know you guys don't feel sorry because y'all are elderly, but
say my 30th high school reunion was in 2015.
Yeah.
So
Kara's saying I'm number one.
Yep. But it's good. Have you been back to any of the other ones?
No, this is my first one, but I figured this is the one I need to go to because after this one, that's when everyone starts dropping off.
Well, I mean, there's probably some people who died already, but
it is true. So, David, I have this group of friends from Southeast High in Greensboro, North Carolina, where I graduated. And we've been talking on Facebook Messenger for years, mostly about how much it sucks getting old and Pop-Tarts. Like, it's a big thing with us.
Don't bring up the is a Pop-Tart a sandwich thing, because Dave and I fight over that.
No.
Okay.
But one of our group died this year earlier. Just really suddenly, so sucked.
Yeah.
So we're talking about meeting up at Nag's Head.
Oh, nice.
On the Outer Banks, and having our own little reunion.
Yeah,
because 35 was mid-pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, that was the hard thing. I know a lot of people that had reunions and all that fun stuff postponed. Like, there are a lot of reunions going on this year.
Yeah.
And it's just catching up to the ones that were missed during the pandemic.
Yeah, I am going this year out to Colorado, although it's in the middle of a brutal stretch of travel. But it is. I realized I went to my 5th, and then I didn't go back for my 20 till my 25th, and then on my 25th I realized that if I only went on, I couldn't say cardinal years, but significant years, I would miss all the people who were friends of mine who weren't in my class. So then I started going every year, and that was awesome. Now, I went to a very small high school, 50 people in each graduating class. But
which town?
Colorado. It was in Widefield in Colorado, near Colorado Springs.
Okay.
I went to a boarding school. It's pretty awesome. I mean, I saved my life. I was a kid going the wrong way. And fortunately, my parents had the capacity to send me away to boarding school, and to the right one. If I'd gone to a military academy, I would have ended up completely differently. As it was, this was sort of a boarding school that had a ranching component in it. And so, we and a ranching component, outdoor education, everything that you like about Colorado. And that was the right thing for me. And lacrosse. But what was my point going to be? I don't know. Go to reunion. Everybody should go to reunion. You'll be surprised the number of people who were assholes in high school ended up pretty cool adults.
Like me. No, I was the nerdy guy, and we'll see how people view me.
Well, I mean, you go back and you tell them all the great things that you've done. I am a former member of the LNC.
And they're like, what?
Oh, so you're still a nerd.
You're a librarian?
The LNC is like cosplay, but
no furry costumes.
LARPing. That's called LARPing.
There's no furry costumes involved. Well, there could be furry costumes if we were doing it right.
No.
Definitely
You're
try
not
to crank up.
Not allowed to be a furry?
David.
I can't be a furry?
You could.
No.
Definitely try to crank up a lot of attendance, though, on your Facebook. Right?
I don't want to know.
Oh, my goodness.
It would just ruin karaoke.
Oh yeah, I can't wait for karaoke. See, that's the other reason why you need to come out, Dan. There's a place in the mall. It's like one of those Korean karaoke bars. Well,
so I do have a good. I know I said I had another story to tell you, but I got a karaoke story to tell you.
Yeah,
I went to the Libertarian Party of Tennessee's convention, and I actually ran the karaoke on Saturday night. If you do karaoke within 30 miles of Nashville, you should expect some amazing singers to show up. Holy crap. I mean, there are points I'm like, this is like a concert. Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, there was a woman there who did Bonnie Tyler's Total Eclipse of the Heart. And I was just like, wow, because that's a song that like most people do as a joke, right? And she brought it. It's amazing. And they did that. Who is it? Is it Martina McBride, Independence Day?
Yeah, I think so.
The whole world knows today's her Independence Day. Man, I mean, there's not a dry eye in the house when she sang that. It was amazing. So that was really cool. So I'm looking forward to a less good karaoke crowd. I'm hoping New Mexico can bring that for me.
That's us.
Oh, guaranteed. David,
Oh,
David is so inappropriate.
yeah. Fuck Her Gently by Tenacious D.
I have seen David do that in karaoke.
Yes, I have. I've done that in karaoke on LP Happy Hour. That's right.
Well, and so what's funny
And-
about it is I think we should bring that back. We essentially stopped going because the karaoke was bothering other people. We should just bring back Friday night karaoke.
Yeah. Why not?
All right.
That would be
I'm
fun.
in for that.
Although, hey, Dan, I'm going to starting coming into DC during Friday on Fridays.
All right.
So if you
Hey,
want
what do you do on Wednesdays, man?
on Wednesdays,
Yeah.
cocaine.
All right. Well, because Wednesdays, is Grover Norquist's breakfast. And I have a
Oh
standing.
my God. Yeah. You know what? I just saw a photo that I had taken 10 years ago when I was running for office, where I wrote all over the pledge he sent to me and filed it.
Fair
I
enough.
was very proud of that. Very proud of that.
I mean,
I'll send
all
it to
I
you.
ask you to do is to not vote to raise taxes. But that being said, I have a standing invitation. I'm going to go sometime in the next month. If you want to go in and have brunch and then go to the breakfast, let me know.
All right.
It's a fun time.
I'm kind of committed to Fridays, but I'll see if I can swing it around.
Yeah. I mean, just tell them you're working from home and still come in on Wednesday.
Oh, yeah, that'll work.
That's going to happen.
Breakfast. The breakfast is from like 9:30 to 12. So, or 9:30 to 11:30. I don't remember exactly what it is.
Well, hey, Craig in High Point.
What's up, Craig?
Yeah, High Point is close to our old stomping grounds. We used to live in South Guilford, and
Southeast Guilford,
Southeast Guilford, next to the Forest Oaks Country Club.
Forest Oaks adjacent,
yes. Mid Lakes neighborhood. But
Yep.
yeah, High Point was in the old stomping grounds as well.
and our cousin Tony lives in McLeansville. So
Yeah, we got lots of good libertarians down in the Triad area. Let's see. Federal judge is expected to rule on a state level challenge to the ability of our favorite representative, Marjorie Taylor Greene, running for re-election because she aided an insurrection, and now they want to pull her off the ballot on 14th Amendment grounds. Now, this case has been blocked previously when it was filed against Madison Cawthorn, but it's a different judge. And during the hearing this week, the judge in that case, Judge Toltenberg, indicated she was amenable to it.
Look, there couldn't be anybody who hates MGT more than me.
I don't know. I have a really good friend who's running against her. She's in the Democratic Party.
We got friends running against her too.
Yeah, Angela Pence is
Wendy Davis.
But innocent until proven guilty. You can't stop people from running for office. Running for office is an exercise of your speech.
Sure.
Your speech cannot be limited until you are convicted as a felon.
When you commit your crimes on camera in front of the world,
you have to be convicted.
Yeah, I mean, you still have to. I mean, now is this a grand reason not to vote for this woman? Absolutely.
Yeah, campaign on it. Let the voters have the choice.
But yeah, this should absolutely be a campaign issue. Now, if she does get convicted, absolutely throw her off the ballot.
But also connecting the circles, Dave, you have to connect Wendy and Angela.
Yeah, so Wendy's running for Democratic.
As a Democrat. So we have a good friend, Angela Pence, who's a remarkable woman who's the Libertarian candidate running against MGT.
Okay.
So we'll get those guys together. They should have some debates. And because MGT won't come to any of the debates.
Oh, God, no.
Well, the problem was that they sent her directions, and that was the problem. She couldn't figure it out.
Ass, hole in the ground, flashlight, still clueless.
Yeah. that being said, if we want to talk about something controversial, you
God
want to
forbid.
talk about the Texas abortion case where the woman was acquitted of murder for inducing her own abortion. Are you familiar with this?
No, missed this.
All right,
Mm-mm.
let me share it up real quick.
So this is under the new law?
Exactly.
Well, I'm glad there's some nullification action happening. Let me share.
Yep. So essentially, it's exactly what you would think. This is where technology is. However, they had charged this woman with murder for inducing her own abortion. And one of the arguments that I like to make, and Libertarian Party is like any other group of people. You're going to find a broad selection of beliefs about the morality of abortion. And honestly, in the pro-choice movement, there's a wide belief about the morality of abortion, but there's no question about the legality of it. Should people be able to decide what to do with their own lives? And the one thing that I've said all the time talking to libertarians is, if you know any family that has had a miscarriage, it is a tremendous tragedy in their life. It is literally the death of the child that they thought they were going to have. And making abortion illegal means that police potentially have to investigate miscarriages, right? Because
my God.
your prenatal doctor knows that you were pregnant and then you're not. Do the police have to come out and knock on the door and say, we're from the government and we need to assess your body to see whether or not you performed an illegal abortion on yourself? That's terrible. That is the worst possible scenario that you come with, and there's no way to get around that if abortion is illegal. And here we see the first example of that, of a woman having been charged with murder under an abortion law. So I don't see how anybody could support a system that involves extending the police's powers to inspecting somebody else's body, regardless of the morality.
Yeah.
Well, it's clear it's not about children. It's about control.
Yep. I agree. And it's as authoritarian as you can get.
Yeah.
It is essentially, and it's, I don't really believe it's about morality either. We had this conversation down in Miami at Bitcoin Miami when we talked with some of the other Liberty people there. And, if it's about morality, there's so much more pro-life stuff that you can do, like releasing people from prison, putting families back together when one of the parents has committed a nonviolent drug crime, looking at elderly care. If you're really pro-life, you should be concerned about the quality of people's life as well. You should support death with dignity, stuff like that. And so it's not about morality either. It's just about control. Now, I firmly support the people who believe that life begins at conception and trying to convince people that they're right. Talk about it with a passion. There is a truth that, there are dominatingly more adoptive parents in the United States than there are children who up for adoption in the United States. If you want to make those arguments, that's fine. On the other hand, I also understand the fact that, a woman's body is her own. And if she chooses to, make the decision that's best for her, that's her decision. It's nobody else's.
Yeah. I want to share a comment from Sherry Conover, Charlotte. She says that if you're pro-life and not allowing OTC birth control, you're unserious. Absolutely. And we've gotten to the point where, it's not just condoms and diaphragms and the oral contraceptives, but we've got the morning after pill. This stuff should be available. Everything should be available OTC.
Yeah. Well, the 3D printed IUD is close. There are versions out there. I'm not recommending anybody use any of them right now, but I think that there will be very good versions out there relatively soon. And it's not long before, YouTube's got everything, how to do your own DNC, all that stuff.
Oh my God.
I wouldn't suggest it.
I wouldn't suggest it, But the idea that you're going to be able to stop people from doing that by making a law that makes abortion illegal, no, that's exactly what's going to happen, is that people are going to do what they feel like they have to do with their lives. So
And
instead
they're
of
going to die.
Yeah.
Huh?
And they're going to die.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we get to the stage that, you know, the do it yourself at home kits get really good. But yeah, I mean, no matter what they do, there's still going to be abortions.
Yeah.
So, you know, let's make it a procedure that people can do as safely as possible, since we can do it much more safely.
Yep. Yeah. It's awful. Yeah, all these laws that have been coming out the last few months. Well, I mean, generally we hate laws coming out, but the stuff that's really gone after people's health choices over the last few months have just been awful. Like we've taken such a step back in how we treat human beings. Whether you're talking about Texas's abortion bans or the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida, the trans bill in Texas, all this stuff is just we it feels like we're taking steps back, regardless of we're going to be subversive. We're going to not follow the law. We're going to out now break the law if I have to do if I don't feel that the law is worthy. But what our lawmakers are doing right now is just absolutely a step back in the movement towards human freedom.
Right. You know, I know there's so much argument about the misinformation and stuff that's going on as well.
Mm-hmm.
There is, chances are pretty good if you've argued with somebody about the Don't Say Gay bill, they'll say, that's not really what it says. Nowhere in it does it say, don't say gay. But I'm going to share out my screen again because this part is particularly crazy. And you know what? It doesn't say gay, but it says it prohibits classroom discussion about sexual orientation. That is, don't say gay, right? They just didn't put it in there. So anytime you argue with somebody who says, oh, it doesn't say that, hey, fuck you, you're a liar. It does say that.
Yeah, it does. And of course, they're also saying, well, it's only for certain ages. But,
here's the thing.
Okay, don't put Miss and Mr. and Mrs. on letterhead or on classrooms of the teachers you're working with.
If Johnny wants to ask his teacher, how come Sally has two daddies? The teacher can say, sometimes a family has two daddies. That's not bad. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Well, what's wrong here, though, is what is that doing to the kids who do have two daddies or two mommies? Mm-hmm. And they're being shamed from talking about their family as having any validity.
Yep.
It's monstrous.
It is. And here's the thing, and we'll get into a little bit more on this a little bit later, but a lot of people who are speaking out against this bill are being called groomers and, talking about child pedophilia and all this stuff. Here's the thing. If you treat sexuality and relationships as such a taboo subject, these kids aren't going to learn about themselves and their bodies and and they're going to be much more vulnerable to assholes who want to groom them. Yep. If they don't know the strategies of avoiding jerks who want to, use sexual language to groom them as a potential victim of their predation, that to me is much more of being in a pro groomer mindset than having a bill, allowing discussions within the classroom about relationships and gender and things like that.
Yeah, being willing to have conversations is the important part of education. And we want people to model education in schools. We can argue about public schools, what they look like, stuff like that. But everybody should agree that a house of education is one in which things get questioned, questions get asked. It's not a house of indoctrination. It's a house of education. And so if we're going to have a system of education, let the kids ask questions, because kids are going to ask you the most honest questions, sometimes the most embarrassing questions. All of those things promote learning. And so let's have that conversation and let's unhandcuff the educators who are trying to encourage kids to be inquisitive and answer their questions.
Absolutely. Speaking of Florida, Dan, you were down in Miami, Florida for the Bitcoin conference.
I was. Bitcoin 2022.
There we go.
So I was down there fundraising for People for Liberty, but we were at the conference, and Joe Jorgensen, who of course is the president for People for Liberty, was on stage, and I've got like 5 or 6 good stories to tell. So first of all, she was on stage with Glenn Greenwald and Andrew Yang, which was awesome. It was great to see Glenn Greenwald because, we weren't sure if he was going to make it. We thought, and he thinks, there's a legitimate chance that he might be arrested if he comes into the United States. Fortunately, he wasn't. Now, one of the interesting things about this, and since this is the political deep dive, I'm going to spill some political tea here.
All right.
So I met with Andrew Yang 5 months ago here in DC when he was on his Forward book tour. And we spoke, and we had spoken before. He had debated Jeffrey Myron back in like 2019. And I was there for that. And we had some words then. And so in the last time I saw him, I'm like, you're starting this new party. I don't know that you understand what ballot access is like for a third party. You really have to be really organized, stuff like that. And he said to me at the time, he's like, well, we had to work hard to get on the ballot when we were running the Democratic primaries. We had to go out and gather signatures and stuff like that.
You have no idea.
And I'm like, I don't think you guys get it. So then we're in Miami, and his staff is talking to our staff, and they're like, man, we don't get it. We can't get any press coverage since we've left the Democratic Party, and we started looking at ballot access. I don't see how we're going to do it. I'm like, yeah, that's right.
And not unless Andrew loosens up them purse strings.
Yep. Now, one of the things that was fascinating to me is I told a story. I'm going to tell it now for everybody else. So my experience with Bitcoin began in 2012. I was running for Congress in Massachusetts, and I went up to Liberty Forum in New Hampshire, this great Liberty conference, and they had the very first Bitcoin ATM there. And I put a $100 bill in because I'm a sport, and I got 14 Bitcoins. Great, exciting. And so then, because I'm also a traditional investor, and then so Bitcoin was $7 at the time, but because I'm a traditional investor, when I had hit 4,000% return, I thought, how could this possibly do better? I'm going to sell. And so I sold all my Bitcoin at $280. Oh, wow. And then I just got bitter, right? As Bitcoin went up and up. And I stayed away from my Coinbase account for 10 years. Now I'm getting ready to go down to a Bitcoin conference, and I rekindle my my Coinbase account. When I go to log in, they're like, hey, some things have changed since you were here. Oh, and so one quick point about it. So I cashed out my Bitcoin at 280, and Coinbase just sent me a check. That was it, right? No reporting. I didn't have to pay any taxes on it, anything like that. It was great. So then I go to reopen my Bitcoin account, my Coinbase account, and I'm pleasantly surprised to find there's some Bitcoin Cash in there that I'd forgotten about. But Bitcoin Cash is not worth that much.
Yeah.
And they say, hey, you haven't. You need to send us a picture of your driver's license, because now if you want to trade cryptocurrency, so send them a picture of my driver's license, and then they say, hey, when you signed up for the account, you told us that your birthday is January 1st, 1970. I'm like, yeah, that's what I put on every form that asks for my birthday. For the super nerds, that's the day the first Unix machine came online. However, that's what I put in for all my birthdays. They said, well, it doesn't match what's on your driver's license, so we have to suspend your account. So I have been in customer support hell with Coinbase because I have a suspended account for 9 days. And I blame the government. I blame Coinbase this much, but I blame the government this much because it's the government's fault. Coinbase doesn't care about my driver's license. They don't want to have any of that stuff. It's the government that's trying to control it. 7 weeks ago, Biden issued an executive order about cryptocurrency where they said a couple of alarming things. One, they're going to try to put more regulations on crypto. But two, the Treasury is exploring the U.S. digital currency with the idea that they are going to completely get rid of physical currency and only have digital currency. And the problem with that For those of you who understand how crypto works, let me give just a quick explanation. You have a crypto wallet. And if you want to send money to somebody else, you put in the address of the wallet you want to send the money to, and then you register the transaction with somebody who can process the transaction, and then the transfer happens. What the government is proposing is that the U.S. Treasury Department will issue all the wallets, and they will process all the transactions. So when the U.S. digital currency comes online, it will now be impossible to pay an undocumented worker because they won't have a working wallet. It would be impossible to pay a contractor under the table because those transactions won't last very long. So
it'd be impossible to pay your weed man.
Exactly. Right. It is as big a threat to our liberty as I have seen come through the government in quite a while.
Yeah, absolutely. That's quite scary. Plus, it also, with the government that has that kind of control of your wallet, can also take away all your money in a heartbeat.
Well, as we saw with the Canadian trucker thing, right? Yeah. They got all this money from GoFundMe, and they decided to just turn it off and say, okay, you can't get GoFundMe money anymore. And then their currency was gone. But that was a proof of point of how awesome Bitcoin is, because then just everybody sent Bitcoin and it worked great. The idea of having a currency that's not controlled by the government is critical to your individual liberty. People are like, oh, it can be used for money laundering. So, I mean, you can use other things for money laundering too. And I'm not 100% convinced that money laundering is a terrible thing. Okay. People commit crimes. Crimes are terrible things. But the idea that, you open up a couple pizza restaurants that are cash businesses and, now you've got clean sources of cash, stuff like that. That's almost impossible to stop.
Yeah.
As a person who has been in trouble, I have been at times a big sports gambler. And if you deposit more than $10,000 into your bank, the bank is supposed to report it to the government.
Yep.
So there have been times that, I've been depositing like $8,000, $9,000 at a time in gambling wins. And at one point, the bank reported me for structuring because they're like, oh, she should be depositing larger chunks, but it seems like he's depositing smaller chunks. It just so happens my weekly winnings were, less than $10,000. And maybe occasionally I did structure a little bit, but shouldn't be illegal. It shouldn't be illegal to deposit the money in my bank however the hell I want to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Keep your money in your mattress, kids.
And they also proposed to drop. I mean, that was one of the things I'm glad that they dropped out of some of the budgetary stuff that Biden was proposing, was dropping that reporting requirement to $600.
Oh, did they drop it again? Because they brought it back in the most recent budget.
Did they?
Yeah, so the budget they just proposed last week, all deposits over $600 now have to be reported.
They're gonna propose that until they get it passed.
Right. Yeah, you have to. It has to be reported to the government, and you have to have a note from your mom.
Well, that'll be a little hard for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
I have to balance. I had a procedure earlier this week, and I am fading out. But I'll see you next week.
All right.
We'll see you soon, Kara. Dave and I are winding down anyway.
Yep.
Okay. Mwah. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Tell me the joke, Dave.
Buffalo played today. That's the joke.
That's pretty good.
All right. So the story that God, I just don't want to talk about this, but it really is the big story within our libertarian family.
Yep.
So Tom Woods, who will be the first to tell you that he's a New York Times best-selling author, professor of history, head of, I can't exactly remember what his role with the Mises Institute at the University of Auburn is, but he's one of the big wigs there. Has a podcast that Tom Woods Show, which is very popular. So earlier this week, and I was kind of on the when this got revealed, but earlier this week the story came out that Tom had dated his wife, who eventually became his wife.
His first
wife. Yes, this is true. Well, at least they started their relationship when she was 15 and he's 26, a grad student, and working at a magazine at that time.
Tom ran the magazine, right?
Yeah, it was a Catholic magazine, like
Latin Mass.
Latin Mass, yes.
Yeah, based out of Massachusetts, and the young woman in question's mother worked at the magazine as well.
Yes. So there was denials. There were counterpoints made. There, in fact, their own word, his own words, his ex-wife's own words, kind of confirmed the fact that they had a relationship prior to her being an 18-year-old,
Right.
and he had issued some denials that were very easily and quickly proven wrong. Man, so I think the whole thing with the Tom Woods story, and I'll actually post the story from my friend John Hudak in the chat here across the channels. Like Tom Woods is a very famous person, and get off here feedback. There we go. Tom Woods is a very famous person. There's a lot of people that are in his orbit that really depend on his not getting yeeted because of this cancel culture, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
How do we? But it's clear that something really unethical happened here.
Well, yes, I agree. It is something that does not fit into my ethics.
Yes.
On the other hand, there are the apologists out there who are saying, well, 15 it's okay if you had a relationship with a 15 and 16-year-old, 15, 17-year-old, maybe even a 15 and a 19-year-old, right?
Yeah.
What they call Romeo and Juliet sort of scenario.
Sure.
But this is not that.
No.
Okay. In this case, right? A, there's undue influence in that the mother works for Tom Woods. B, you're talking about a 9-year gap or 11-year gap.
Yeah.
Right. It's he is almost twice as old. And I just don't believe that a 15-year-old can give consent, or that they are. And let's be clear. It's not clear that we don't know when there was a physical relationship.
Sure.
We don't know anything about that. And we don't know intimate details about the conversations. We just know that we believe that evidence shows that at one point in time, there was contact that was at least slightly lascivious in nature.
Yes.
But there's no transcripts, anything like that. Even though it's interesting, since it was on AOL, transcripts probably do exist.
Oh my goodness. Well, they killed AOL Instant Messenger 2 years ago. It was like early on in the pandemic. They
Backups are still there.
Oh, well, there you go. I don't want to look for that conversation.
It's, in terms of cancel culture, I mean, Tom publishes his own podcast.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's on, any of the big networks or anything like that. Does he have a regular radio show now? I don't remember.
I don't think he does have a radio show per se. I think it's just the podcast.
Yeah.
And it does afford him quite a bit of freedom from, quote unquote cancel culture. But he's also dependent on advertisers to keep that rolling.
Right.
But it almost seems like we are stuck with bad actors. And especially the apologists. I think that's probably the most disappointing thing this whole week is that it's not so much, defending Tom, it's the way that they've apologized for his behavior and making it seem like that this is either a normal thing or we shouldn't care about it or Another piece of information that came out during this week was the wife of his podcast host, Bob Murphy, one of the co-creators of the Contra Krugman podcast, revealed that Tom was incredibly rude to her when they first met, and it's not like just he snubbed her or anything. She's on the spectrum. I won't reveal what I have heard about her,
Yep.
but Tom uttered the word "social retard" when talking about her.
Yeah. That is.
If that was my wife, Tom would be shitting teeth for a week.
Yep. I mean, there's clearly some stuff there that should be enough to people say, you know what? This is not appropriate behavior.
And
even if they're going to say, and the thing is, they could come back and they could say, it was a while ago and we're going to forgive him, something like that. Yeah. But they can't even bring themselves to say that what he did was wrong at any point in time. Yeah. And that's where the real problem begins, is that when you have this cult sort of thing going on, it feels like if you admit any error in your mystical leader, that you are blaspheming.
Yep.
When in reality, the only blasphemy is to not tell the truth. And I think most people would say that's an inappropriate relationship. It shouldn't have happened.
Yep.
And the fact that people aren't willing to do that. And, there's another controversy going on too with, Dave Smith and the 12 shot video, where people say, oh, that doesn't mean what you say it means. But, God bless Fakertarians for saving all this stuff, because, people are pulling it. But the video's out there. Anybody can watch it and make their own decision about what Dave said. And the people who are denying it and saying, oh, it meant something else, that's just like the worst sort of gaslighting.
Yeah, it's like, well, people who tell me, it's not what you think he meant. It's like, well, where did you get this magic Dave Smith or Tom Woods decoder ring that tells you what they're actually meaning when they're talking about this stuff online? And it's it's just bullshit. Like,
right. And the problem is that there are good people who are entangled with bad people who are trying to defend this.
Yeah.
And if you're a good person, part of being good means that you make your own moral decisions for yourself. And so this is my message out there to everybody. If you know that some of your friends are doing something wrong, like morally wrong, you have to say something about it.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to say something publicly about it. You can confront them. You can talk to them about it, saying this is wrong. But if you continue to associate with them and you don't say anything about the fact that their behavior was bad at some point in time, you are condoning it. And so you are lending the strength of your voice to allowing a violation of consent culture. And that's what we're talking about in both these cases, right? Talking about people who aren't able to consent. And the fact is that some people think you don't need consent. I'm here to say consent culture means consent culture all the time, complete consent culture. Nobody gets to sniff your hair. Nobody next gets to grab you. Nobody gets to
apply you with money. Shots.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All that stuff. It has to be complete consent culture. And if you are a good person, you'll stand up for that. You'll stand up for the idea that consent culture has to be complete all the time. There is no compromising on it, because when we start to compromise on consent culture, that's when we open the door for some really heinous shit to start happening.
Well, yeah. I mean, just think of, okay, so a lot of these people that have been defending it were some of the most ardent detractors of Arvin Vohra when he came out in 2017, 2018, talking about age of consent laws, and wanted him on the Libertarian National Committee. He was vice chair at the time. It was a massive controversy. These were, a lot of these people were the same ones who were saying Arvin's got to go. This is not, this is bad messaging. This is, and it ends, now it becomes one of their heroes. And this is why I don't have heroes. I have people I admire and want as mentor roles, and you're one of them. But I y-
Yeah,
that whole cult of personality, like I can't subscribe to that because I know that no one's perfect, and I get that. I'm not gonna slag Tom or Tom Woods because he's not perfect. But when it comes to, I think when we study this years from now, if this ever becomes a much bigger story, this is another this is a case study for PR and how not to handle a crisis situation because
well,
everything he's done during this entire thing has just added fuel to the fire.
for
Just been
sure. I mean, there's the
horrible.
whole, yeah. First of all, the whole Streisand thing, right? The best thing from PR would have just been to do nothing.
Yeah.
But secondly, uh, there is, when if somebody asks you for your support and backing when they've done something wrong, that's a big red flag.
Yep.
Okay. We talk about heroes, right? A hero is somebody who's willing to stand up and say, you know what, I fucked up here.
Yep.
And I think if Tom Woods had done something like that and said, it was a case, it was a different time period, it was 20 years ago. And, I thought we were just fooling around and joking around. And then suddenly, something happened. There are ways that he could have said something about it, as opposed to, oh no, it's totally justified, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
blah, which is just,
We're Catholics. We marry early. Well,
yeah,
Catholics marry
exactly.
early, but they marry each other early, not
Exactly. Young Catholics usually marry young Catholics. That was my
yes.
favorite quote on that. Um, it's baffling. I think that, I don't know what the effect is going to be. What's going to be interesting about it is, so there are other people, other sort of luminaries at the top level. I'd love to hear Scott Horton speak up about this. What does he think about it?
I've seen some of his stuff where he's, this is BS, this is obvious BS, it's the, character assassination type stuff.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, like, uh, what should happen with his speaking slot at the Libertarian National Convention in June? I mean, or in May.
I mean, we know that all the people are going to support him, so present company accepted.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I do remember when they pulled Maj. On the other hand, Maj doubled down on everything and, was very,
Well, Tom's doubling down on everything, really, when you think about it.
I mean, he's saying bad things, but he's not like, I mean, hopefully he's not dating any other 15-year-olds.
I mean, there is an age discrepancy between him and his current fiancée, but it's not that. I mean, it's not. She's not underage.
Yeah, yeah.
That's not a concern. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, what
Yeah,
will cause
I don't
that?
know either. I think that in many ways the best thing that could happen would be let Tom go to the convention and then photograph everybody who shows up to his speaking engagement,
Yeah,
and just leave it at that.
yeah.
There is, I don't know. It's an unfortunate thing because a lot of times I talk about, you have to be able to separate the art from the artist. You know, T.S. Eliot was a Nazi sympathizer.
Mhm.
Ezra Pound was anti-Semitic. You can find any number of founding fathers who were slave owners. I can't say that there is. I don't understand. There are things that I think that Tom Woods has written that are on point liberty messages.
Mhm.
There's stuff that's out there. We have to separate that from, the actions. And, honestly, if we could get an apology, and, there's not just this, it's also the whole League of the South stuff and all that.
Sure.
There's a way to move forward, but it means an admission of guilt. And I don't know that that's going to happen.
I
It,
don't think it's going to happen at all. I think that
yeah.
Tom is going to dig his heels in and maybe eventually he gets convinces the mom or the daughter or the ex-wife to speak out on his behalf. I don't know that
No,
happens,
that,
but
that won't happen.
yeah,
Knowing both of the principles.
yeah. I don't know. This it's made it really hard for me lately. A lot of this stuff that's been going on has really kind of weakened my grasp on the Libertarian Party, not the Liberty Movement. By and large, I'm still very much wanting to see a world set free in our lifetime. I just don't know that. I would hope that the Libertarian Party becomes that vehicle. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why it's become this way.
There's a couple things about it. So let's sort of address the larger picture, which is the takeover itself and what allowed it to happen. And I was thinking about this. So I was watching Better Call Saul, and there's I'm only in season 4, so no spoilers. I don't want to hear anything about
I've never watched either one of the New Mexico-based shows.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I definitely recommend them. It would be interesting to watch them in order, like watch Better Call Saul and then Breaking Bad.
Yeah,
But it would be interesting. Anyway, but so there's this scene where in order to pass the bar, a lawyer has to be sponsored by another lawyer. I've often thought that one of the things that we do that's a huge mistake is we allow voting members, essentially like New Hampshire allows voting members to vote that day at their convention. Okay. Massachusetts has a 1 month. I think that we should move it to a year.
Yeah.
Have somebody stick around for a year, because if they're interested
in the game.
Yeah, because honestly, as libertarians, we shouldn't be voting on much shit anyway, because democracy is a tyrant. So most of the stuff we should be doing, sort of I want to do that. Good, you go do that. Can I get any money? Anybody want to give Dave money to do that? Great. That's the way the Libertarian Party should be doing things.
Yes.
But instead, we have sort of worked hard on fundraising. And even though we're not successful, libertarians are so bad at fundraising that if they see a state party with $300, they're like, hey, I want to control that. And that's the stupid stuff that we're fighting over.
Yeah.
And being able to put on the resume chair of the party or whatever. I think
it doesn't do much for your resume out there. I'm just telling you, it doesn't do much for your resume.
Well, so what's interesting is one of the things
director maybe, but not chair.
Well, one of the things that Massachusetts has done to move away from that is that instead of calling the head position chair, they're going to call it stool. So you can be stool of the party.
And the other meaning of the word stool, so
exactly. So I think that's a really good idea. I like the 1 year membership before voting. I think that's a reasonable idea as well.
Yeah.
States can do whatever they want, but
I mean, for those of you out there that are really kind of at a dark night of the soul when it comes to the Libertarian Party, there are other vehicles out there. Dan, you are.
I am. So it's interesting enough. We have a 501c3 that's launching, and one of the things that's different to get a little bit into the nonprofit world. So 501c4 allows for political activity, lobbying, stuff like that. Yeah. You can spend up to 49% of your budget on political activity. You can give money to candidates. 501c3 is only about education. And so we are launching a 501c3, which allows us to have members who can pay dues, stuff like that. And the 501c3 is going to be solely focused on liberty education. We are going with the very radical idea that liberty is not a political issue. And that's an important thing because, and I talked about this at Bitcoin too. So I was there with Joe, and we talk about the fact that, Jo Jorgensen is the only woman to be on the ballot in all 50 states twice, right? Geraldine Ferraro never did it.
Hillary
Clinton never did it. Only Joe. And so I said, let's talk about, Joe, what the state of the conversation was about marriage equality in 1996. She said, Nobody was talking about it. It was illegal everywhere. And so let's talk about what the state of it was in about the state of cannabis in 1996. Nobody was talking about it. It was illegal everywhere. It's a great example. So now let's go back and look to what things were like in 1900. In 1900, there are no cannabis laws and there are no marriage laws, right? People did whatever the hell they wanted to. It's government getting involved and getting regulation and that ends up breaking things. And so when we start talking about cryptocurrency, and I talked about my deal with Coinbase and how they're getting things involved, we start to see government getting involved right now, right? The beginning, the growth of crypto in 2012 is because there is no government interference. It's just your right and you can do that. And then the government is starting to get involved. We don't want it to have to be like marriage equality or like cannabis, but we can win those issues and we know how. The Libertarian Party knows how, right? How do we make marriage equality happen? We made people think of it as a liberty issue instead of a political issue. How do we get cannabis to become legal? We made people think of it as a liberty issue instead of a political issue. Part of what People of Liberty is focusing on right now is that educational component so that people reflexively understand what is a liberty issue and what is a political issue. We used to, not that long ago, everybody understood that speech is a liberty issue. Americans used to say all the time, I may not agree with what you have to say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it.
Yep.
I cannot imagine a Republican or a Democrat saying that about the other side right now. So we have lost that. People for Liberty is dedicated to the idea that we can restore that idea. I'm not a person who uses the word blessings in my life very often, but I'm cognizant of the preamble to the Constitution when they talk about ensure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. It's a critical thing. The founders understood that liberty is a blessing. It is not a political football. And so if you want to go out there and do something for liberty, that's where you got to be right now. You got to find a way to make sure that liberty isn't just for you. It isn't just for your tribe. You want everybody to think as liberty is the thing that we all defend for each other.
Yeah.
That's how we get things done.
And in that vein, over the next few weeks, we'll be talking to other groups that do liberty action in the political realm. Jen Moore is going to come on next week and talk about her new party, the Keystone Party up in Pennsylvania, talk about what they're doing. And then down the road, we're going to be talking to the United States Pirate Party.
Nice.
They are starting to... They had a little bit of a moment early in 2010, got some people elected to college campus councils and stuff like that, but now they are reforming and they've had tremendous growth over the last few months. So, we'll bring them on and have them talk about their party. I think as many vehicles as we can drive towards the point of liberty, I think is better. So
I tell you, the thing that I'm excited about the most is in the Keystone Party, their criminal justice plank. The people that are going to be in charge of policing for the Keystone Party are the Keystone Cops. So you saw that coming, didn't you?
Wow.
It's a long way to go for that joke.
But, the one thing I saw in the first time I saw something from the Pirate Party is one of my friends on Twitter, who's a Pittsburgh-based libertarian, not big L libertarian, small L libertarian. Posted this notice from the United States Pirate Party saying, specifically directed towards libertarians, if you're tired of what's going on, come check out our membership meeting. We'll talk about what we believe in. And his comment was, great, I already have a Pennsylvania-based pirate team that disappoints me every year. So I think I'll pass. But we'll check it out, see what they got going. But Pirate Party in Europe is fairly, they call it, it's a mix of things, but there's a lot of liberty-based stuff, especially in the digital realm when it comes to the Pirate Party. So,
yeah, they're left libertarians, classical liberals, and essentially, we've heard me talk about it too. That sort of idea of what is intellectual property? Should the government be in the business of defending it?
Yep. Yeah. So anyway, got anything else for the week, man?
That's it, man. So May 1st is going to be the second annual Liberty Day of Service.
There we go.
We're going to be pumping out a whole bunch of information about that tomorrow. Look for it in your inbox, on your Facebook, on Twitter, etc., stuff like that. Find a group, find a partner, get together and do something while wearing your Liberty gear that is public service oriented on May 2nd, which is only 3 weeks away. So,
excellent. And my buddy down in Beckley, West Virginia, Travis Rednick, runs the Deep End Antique. If you are into any like military surplus, gems, crystals, those type of things, antique furniture, please feel free to drop by and check out that stuff. It's the close to the intersection of I-64 and I-68 in Beckley, West Virginia, or visit him on his Facebook page. But a great store. And also join Travis and I on the Thursday Night Hockey Show, Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern. We talk about the latest happenings in the NHL and any other hockey that might be happening that night. So again, Thursday nights at 7 p.m. For the Thursday Night Hockey Show. All right, Dan.
awesome. Good
See
show.
you next week. Yep, good show. See you next week with Jen Moore. All right.